Okay. Hi, Aggie. I'm still waiting for Helen to join, but yeah, I did reiterate what was going on. Okay, Aggie, you're the only one here, but I was just wondering if you could check our DMs because I can't check them at the same time while I'm on the live, so if she's like trying to message me hectically, I don't want to be like, thank you. Okay. We're gonna get started really soon.
Hello.
Hi.
So sorry, having trouble figuring out how to get live. My fault.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally fine. We're just gonna wait for maybe a few more minutes just to get started with just the main bulk of the presentation. But I do need to just figure out my computer really quick, more tech issues. But in the meantime, I think we can just introduce ourselves. So my name's Ella. I do quite a few things for the Red Sea, but I work on the social media side of things. I do a little bit, I just help out with the team in general, talks and panels, this kind of thing. So yeah, that's me. If you can introduce yourself, that would be great.
Sure. I'm Helen Price Johnson. I'm a candidate for the state Senate in the 10th Legislative District. I currently serve as an Island County Commissioner. Was first elected in 2008 and really enjoyed that role serving my community. Before that, I served on the South Woodby School Board and got involved there. Prior to that, I was with the leadership in the PTA and working on legislative issues for our local school district. My husband and I raised 4 kids on the south end of Whidbey Island, and we now have 3 lovely granddaughters. I can go into more detail, but I'm not sure
Um,
what like today.
okay, so we will actually just get started super quick. Gosh darn it, I'm having some technical difficulties right now, but I will figure that out super soon. So you can just elaborate on kind of, I guess, if you just have anything you want to say about yourself, that would work.
Well, I'm running for the state Senate because I want to make sure that we have a strong advocate for this Northwest region of Washington. For those unfamiliar, it's all of Island County, so Whidbey and Camano Islands, and then the south part of Skagit County, LaConner area, a little bit of Mount Vernon down, and then the north part of Snohomish, so just outside of Arlington and over to Stanwood. So a lot of rural areas, access to healthcare and mental health care is a big issue for us. Affordable housing, certainly taking care of our environment and preparing for climate change. But number one is just trying to keep our community safe during COVID and make sure that we can keep our businesses open and keep people out of crisis. So
Yeah.
those are the reasons that I'm running for the state Senate. I'm so grateful to be able to get to know more about the Red Sea and the work that you're doing. Um, Looking forward to this today.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, gosh darn it. Okay, my computer is not working. Aggie, if you're here, Aggie's just on our team. I'm just going to ask her to email me the questions really quick. Are you here, Aggie? I'm so sorry about this. If you could email me just the questions really quick because I can't access them for some reason. And we'll just get started really, really soon. I do promise. But I do know the first question off the top of my head. So the first question that we are wondering about is just what was your first experience with your period, and what did you kind of learn about menstruation and that kind of thing before you started your period?
So I was raised in a household with a single working mom, and three brothers. And so thankfully, I guess at the time I thought it was thankfully, I had a number of friends who had started their periods before I did. And so when health class covered kind of the basic video that was put out by a manufacturing company, basically, of feminine hygiene products. We talked about it at recess afterwards and during the lunchtime, and they go, "Oh yeah, this is right and that isn't." My mom was so busy working that she gave me some information in written form, but did not share a lot of detail with me about her own experience. So I was prepared intellectually for it, but it still scared me to death when it happened.
Yeah. So just oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, Aggie. Can you actually send the questions to my email? My Slack isn't working. So apart from that question, I don't remember all the other questions, but I think that's super interesting to hear about because I have heard a lot of experience when people are they have the knowledge, but it's not really on like a personal level prepared for it. And of course, I am also
Yeah.
a moderator, so yeah, that's super interesting to hear. And this is
Well, so then I raised three daughters, and I really
uh,
tried to get more information for them, but it's surprisingly difficult in our culture to talk about anything that has to do with your private parts of your body. And whether, the whole conversation right now around sex education and appropriate relationships that has got a lot of political conversation going on. It's really just being a human being and knowing about your body and what should happen and what to expect and what's normal. So, I went over the questions beforehand. I might have them in my email actually. Would that be helpful?
yeah, that's actually I think Aggie's here, and I'm sorry, my Slack like isn't working right now. That's just kind of the messaging we use. So Aggie, if you're still here and you would want to like just copy and paste the questions and send them to me in an email, that would be super helpful. I'm so sorry about this, but yeah, that's super interesting to hear, and we will get right on with this once we actually get all of our questions that I need to ask. Oh no, you're frozen. It's okay. Oh my goodness. This is not okay. We're all good. It's going good. Okay, Aggie, you're the only one here. I think. Okay, thank you. Well, Helen left, so that's an issue. But here, let me. Oh, I can't. I can't request her to join because she's not viewing it. Okay, wait.
I'm here.
Okay, I got the questions.
Oh, good. I found mine, but I couldn't do that and be in the
Yeah.
so, so
So yeah, we're doing good. And so you did actually kind of touch on this, but what do you wish that you knew before you started your period?
Um, I one of the things that I really wish I'd known is a better understanding about um, uh, uh, how how different it could be from one month to the other. Because that was one of the really scary things for me was, at first it was really light, and then I remember being just traumatically impacted when I was in the middle of a class and all of a sudden it was like a gush, and I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
And I just was totally unprepared for that. I don't Maybe somebody had told me, but I really was not ready when it happened, and that was very frightening. And also it's just so difficult in class, something like that happened. So
So just a few more questions about menstruating and that kind of thing. But what products do you use in your cycle? And also, how do you manage pain and that kind of thing? And I know that some of these questions may seem personal, but this is just for our viewers. And it's just something that we really need to destigmatize and something that we can openly talk about, and that's okay. So, yeah.
Well, I will tell you that I am old enough that I'm no longer using products, but up until recently, I was using a Diva cup actually, and I wish that I had learned about those earlier on. I was a tampon user, but I would often partner that with a pad because, as I said, I was prone to sometimes have super heavy periods, and you can't always get yourself to a restroom in time to take care of that. And it's and even if you are, there often aren't products available unless you happen to bring them with you. So, but and the other thing that really alarmed me that I just was not aware of earlier in my life was how many chemicals are actually put into feminine hygiene products to make you bleed more. That was so offensive and scary to me. And actually, the chemicals that are put in birth control too, but we're talking really just about the menstrual side of it. I still find that offensive, and so that's where I was very. I think it's more ecological. You're not creating as much waste. It's very portable for when you're camping and hiking and things like that too. So I appreciated finding that, and it's just nothing I had ever heard of. Actually, one of my daughters introduced me to it.
Yeah, I know that's a huge thing with like using kind of reusable period products, and it's just not talked about enough. Like, even if menstrual hygiene and just menstruation in general is touched in like places of education, like you only hear about like tampons and pads, you don't hear about more sustainable stuff like a menstrual cup, like reusable pads. And those can like really make a difference, and they can really benefit like you personally because you're not putting chemicals into your body and you're able to reuse things and not create as much waste.
Yeah, it
Um,
doesn't work. I mean, some people can't insert things comfortably, and you just have to
yeah,
um, find what works best for you. Yeah.
yeah, that's also super important. And I know that like at the Red Sea, we're trying to, bring about like not only destigmatizing periods and menstruation in general, but also just making sure that like companies are held accountable for not telling us what we're putting inside of our bodies and not telling us what chemicals that they are um, consciously trying to get into our bodies. So the next question is, how aware were you about menstrual topics such as access to products for incarcerated individuals, houseless individuals, students, workers, etc. when we first reached out to you?
So this is something that I've actually started to hear more about as a candidate for state senate. I started actually a year ago, and so you weren't the first um, place that I started to expand. But actually, one of the folks on my campaign team was was involved in lobbying for taking the tax off of menstrual products, and so she and I had talked about that. That's a great first step in Washington State. But really, the whole idea of it is something that I hadn't. I really, I live in a place of privilege. I have access to resources that many people don't. But my work through the Human Services Department at the county has helped me understand how important it is to have access through the homeless shelter support that we give, and housing support center where people are coming through and needing, basic hygiene products on a regular basis. That's one of the things that we try to make sure we have access to through our housing support center. Um, for folks in our community that are most vulnerable. But the incarcerated side of it, I hadn't really, I made an assumption that it would be available for folks.
Yeah. I know that's like I mean, I didn't even know about like period poverty or anything like that until I started like researching more about like the Red Sea and formerly period Seattle. And then I joined and I was just learning so much more in such like a short span of time. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a huge problem.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, like, wow, so many people don't have access to products that they need.
I'm
So,
really grateful for organizations like yours to help with that because you don't, if it doesn't impact you personally in that same way, you just don't, you don't know what you don't know.
yeah. And I love how you said good first step was taking away the tax on menstrual products because a lot of times it's just confused that, oh, like we're done with menstrual justice just because we don't have a tax on period products anymore. And that's just wonderful that you just said first step on that because that's a really good way to look at it. So the next question is, why is menstrual equity important and um, more, what am I trying to say? I don't know what I'm trying to say at the moment, but why is menstrual equity important and why is menstrual equity important to you?
So it's really important that women have access. Women anyone experiencing menstrual periods needs to have access to the products for hygiene, for basic equity. For way too long, it has been stigmatized and not available. And we live in a misogynistic society. If it were white men that were impacted with this, we would know that it would be available in every stall of every public restroom. It's really there's a broader conversation going on right now around equity, and so it's an appropriate time to bring this forward because it's such a fundamental piece of basic hygiene and health. um, and so I think it's an opportune time for us to be talking and raising this issue. The success that we just talked about at the state legislative level is something to build upon. And so there's already a general consensus that yes, this is an issue. We talked about this last year. Now, how else can we expand that?
Yeah, definitely. So the next question is just kind of building off of that, but do you have any plans and what are your plans to address these inequities in Olympia?
Well, I certainly will be looking for opportunities to bring this forward. There's, certainly in the institutions that the state support, whether it be through the criminal justice system, K-12 education, or higher ed, there are opportunities for the state to help to address this equity issue and forward the policies that we need to have in place so that people have access to the services and products that they need.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let me see what the next question is. So the next question is, what can normal Washington residents do to help get these new laws and new policies enacted? So this can be anything from just on like the personal level to like getting up and actually like talking to people who do have the power to change that.
Well, I think that we all can play a very important role by just using our voice within our own families, within our own circles, whether it's a church group or a book group or just a group of friends. But also using your voice where there are decisions being made with talking to a school board member or a PTA leader for school districts and helping kids so that kids in school have access to the services that they need. Right now, a lot of people are at home, so that's learning from home, making sure that maybe food banks have access to these services so they can be provided as people are picking up their food at food banks or being distributed through many school districts are delivering meals. Maybe we find out if they also need some of these products. So, I mean, there are things that we can all do, but it takes champions and it takes action. If people are uncomfortable speaking directly with elected leaders at city council, county councils, school board members. They can always write a postcard or an email, or they might know somebody who knows them. And talking to friends and using that influence is really important. Everybody's voice really does matter. And that's what elected leaders need, is to have that groundswell of support. And certainly as state legislators or state senators, they need to hear from you too. It worked last year on that tax program.
Okay, so the next question is, what are some common misconceptions people have about local politics? So this question is just kind of broader, not so much focused on menstrual justice, but also how can the general public get engaged and involved in the civil process?
Well, there's just what I was saying is that everybody's voice really does matter. As a local elected official, it really does matter to hear from my community. I actively seek that impact, influence from my community, and there are portions of the community that don't engage readily. So I would encourage folks to be engaged. I also right now, many local governments are doing much more online access, so you don't even have to leave home to.
I glitched a little bit,
It's okay.
but yeah, so the next question is, how is local government different from the national government in terms of the overall process of enacting new legislation? So I know there's a lot of differences between local and national, but we're just going to focus in on this one way that they can be different.
Well, I would tell you directly that counties are a good place for your efforts to be focused, because that's where mental health and human services and housing services are often delivered, sometimes through outside contractors, but a lot of the federal and state funds flow through counties for these important services. Also, the county jails are a place where you could get your voice heard, where you can have an impact. Make sure and ask questions. Maybe there are city and county jails that are doing really well on this issue, but and as well with school districts, same thing. Local school districts are very need to hear from school board members or locally elected officials, and they take a lot of pride in representing their communities. They like to hear how they can be improving their school district to be more equitable. And so please do, you can have a lot of influence at the local level. Maybe not, maybe that's harder at the federal level.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. So this is the second to last question, but how do you plan to fight against the powerful entities that use influence and money to sway your vote and uphold the needs of your constituents?
So you're breaking up a little bit, but I remember that question has to do with influence. And I will tell you that, I am not influenced by the folks that support my campaign. It's kind of the other way around. People support my campaign for the state Senate with their dollars, and they invest in me as a candidate because we align in our views. So I can be informed by them. Really helpful to get more input, but the vast majority of my individuals or from groups of individuals like unions or associations, not major corporations or that kind of thing. But I really think it's the other way around. At least for me, and I think that's most of the elected officials that I speak to have that. But there is a loud voice that sways policy as far as the resources that they have to help tell their story. And so folks who don't have that amount of resource need to use their voice more.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. So we are on our last question, and this is almost perfect timing, but the last question is, why are you running and why should voters vote for you?
So I'll reiterate that I am running for the state senate in the 10th legislative district because it has been a great honor for me to serve this community as a school board member and as a county commissioner. But we have big problems to solve, and we need somebody who's willing to really dig into the tough issues. I've been a past president of the Association of Counties and worked all across the state with other local elected leaders to try to address these issues. Um, I want to go to Olympia and bring my bipartisan approach to solving these tough problems. We need to keep our communities safe. We need to help our economy recover. And we absolutely need to increase equity across our community for housing, for healthcare, for mental health care, and for menstrual health. Thanks so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, and thank you. So we really do look forward to working with you after this election, no matter what happens, because we know that you have influence in your area. So just thank you so much for being here. If you have anything to say that you would like people who are watching this to hear, like any upcoming events you have, any ways that people can support you, that kind of thing.
Well, you certainly can go to helenpricejohnson.org and contribute if you'd like. We have a number of phone banks. We're all about getting out the vote right now. So please be sure to get your ballot in a ballot drop box on Tuesday, before Tuesday at 8 o'clock. So every vote really does matter. My race will come down to just a handful of votes. So thanks so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Okay, thank you so much. This was
Okay,
amazing. So I'm just going to end this really quick, and it'll be on Instagram Live. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
great. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.